Momocon. It's Atlanta's answer to Comic-Con. You won't want to miss it.
And our first outlet, go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Mark from Blurred Art. When I last interviewed you, it was BlurredCon 2025, and you had a very interesting take on that convention when it comes to, say, our culture.
Yes.
My question for you this year is Momocon's 20th anniversary. This is a home con for you. This is a home con for all of us. How special is Momocon to you?
Man, great question. First off, it's always been special because, number one, the actual organizers, Chris and Jess, have treated me as though I was a celebrity, even though I wasn't for a long time. 2015, I want to say, no, I stand correct. 2014, I did my first art for Momocon, but I don't think I attended. I was working on Hero Cats, right? And they came to the actual comic shop that I was working on, and they saw me drawing, and I was like, hey, use some of that art for the show we're doing. I'm like, okay. And I did it. It was for a mouse pad, long story short. But the organizers have been like legit and really true to their mission ever since I met them. And they've always been kind of dialed in, plugged into their community, but they treat, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody else. They've treated me consistently, just the no-name artist, as though I was already somebody, worth being put on a guest list. So they just created a 20-year celebration book. It has all the art for all the characters over the years, and I'm a part of that. And it's kind of weird until you see it in context. I'm like, I was doing art back in 2015, 2016, 2017, but being a part of it, and knowing the owners and how they operate, how they treat people, and how they're consistently building off the community's requests and/or feedback. I'm like, I can't do nothing but speak highly of this con and what it means to me, why I will be here every year. As long as they let me come, I'm coming. So the one story I have is, I can't even remember which year. It had to be maybe 2 or 3 years now. But I was checking into my hotel here, and Jess was at the counter, check-in counter, and she was working with a young lady. They're just leaning on the counter, talking back and forth with the person there. And I'm like, hey, everything's good. She's like, oh yeah, one of the volunteers' rooms are messed up. And I'm like, the volunteers' rooms? Like, you here, you're the organizer, you are fighting for a volunteer's room to be fixed? I was like, that's top tier. You know what I mean? Other organizers are, I've had problems as a guest at other shows getting my hotel right, and I couldn't get in touch. I couldn't get the organizer to come fix it. And I'm like, that shows how they treat people, volunteer or top tier guest. That's my personal experience. I'm like, you can't fake that. So she was like, hey, you need to get this right. Da, da, da. So love this show. Love this show.
And your artwork is right behind you too.
I know the guy that drew that.
We might know a guy.
Jay with Momocon Holley Podcast. Kelly, your writing process, what goes into that and where do you draw inspiration?
So I finished up my first book and just got it published 2 years ago. 2 years ago, but I started writing it back in 2012. And it actually came from a bad dream. It was a bad dream that I had, and I've always done writing. One of the things that me and Greg always joke about and tell people, he's 8 years older than me. So we would play with our G.I. Joes and Transformers, but before we even played with them, we would write out little scripts on what our G.I. Joes and Transformers were gonna do. And as silly as that sounds, I was 5 years old, he's 13. He always won because, of course, his vocabulary, and he knows how to make them, he knew how to write how to make them win. But even then, learning to write from then at an early age was just always fun. And that's one thing Greg always taught me. And then when I started writing the story, it just came from a bad dream. And writing's always been like really therapeutic for me. So anything bad that's happening in my life, it's like I'm a guy with a journal. I just write it down. Whether it's good, bad, whatever, I just write it down if I feel like it's significant. And I started writing it, and as I was getting through, I was crying. The dream was bad. It was a really bad dream. I was crying, and I was like, man, what if I just made some names here and there and there? And then all of a sudden, I just started going. And within an hour, I had like 20 pages. And my friend who just left yesterday, I sent it to him, and he's like, I know this is unpolished, but this thing's got legs. And I sent it to that guy, and he was like, okay, what are we doing here? And then Greg was like, okay, what are we doing? And then it just became a thing. So my writing process is always just off of whatever's happening, I guess, if that makes sense. My imagination is huge, and I just pull from everywhere. And I just managed to, I ended up writing, so my story, I only have one book done. And this book is like the first 4 pages of the script that I wrote. But I have like 3,300 pages of script. So it's like I have it all planned, and it's not even done yet, but I have it all planned out and everything. So in terms of writing process, no more writing for me anymore at this point until I get more books out. But the process for me, like I said, is just whatever inspires me at the moment. If I see a hip hop songs, I've done that before where I'll hear a song and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try to write to that beat, but not actual music, just a story to the beat, however I felt. There's been several songs that I did that with just for fun, So that's where my process came from. It's just more I see something that interests me and I'm just writing it. Or a lot of times from dreams too. Like I'll have a weird dream and I wake up and I write the dream down and I start writing. So that's pretty much where that comes from. Yeah.
I was about to say another name. Carnell from Carnell Holley Pictures. Mark, I remember you being in an interview here, and I know that you are a Marvel fan. I've seen you appearance at MCU ATL experience, fan experience. Now, do you still feel the same way about Marvel with the infamous 3 that you mentioned?
The infamous 3? You mean the rule of 3?
Rule of 3.
The rule of 3. Yeah, it was not my belief. It's still happening. That's not a belief. That is what you can actually trace, and it's evident in their actual products. So for those that don't know, the rule of 3, it's not my rule. The gentleman, McDuffie, that wrote with Milestone Comics, this is on film where he explained the rule of 3. You can Google it. He was saying, any piece of media, entertainment, show, cartoon, you name it, the rule of 3 states basically if you have 17 white characters and no more than 3 black characters, that is acceptable as far as this is for everybody. If you have one more black character as a main character, I'm not talking about support, I'm not talking about background, I'm not talking about Samuel L. Jackson. He's not an Avenger. I'm talking about the main 3 characters on the team of Avengers. As soon as you get a 4th one on it, the actual entertainment industry says, oh, this must be for targeting black people. It doesn't make any sense because you can have 17 non-black characters, usually white, but if you got a Mexican or an Asian, that still doesn't count towards it. It's as long as they're not black, you can have 20, doesn't matter. As soon as you get a 4th, it's now the industry says, well, this must clearly be for black people. It's not my belief. How many Avengers are still Avengers that are black? Main cast, right? And that's still happening. So it's still working that way. And I would like it to stop if that's what you're asking.
And also, if I can just chime in really quick, it's like I've known a couple of celebrities who have also mentioned that. I've known people who have said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's become a standard, and if you look at Power Rangers, there was never more than one black person on that show in a season.
And that's called a token.
That's the token. That's the token.
If you only have one, or that's a term for that too.
Or the magical Negro. Like the magical Negro always has to have that person. You look at a video game. One of my favorite video games right now. We were talking about it yesterday. There's only 3 black characters in that whole game, and there should be way more. And it's only because that's what they picked. And I get it. I understand. That's the product you want to do, but you don't have. It doesn't always have to be that way, and it's never going to change.
It's important to note that he's talking about Marvel Rivals, so it's in context. It's not a different company. It's the same company.
It's Marvel Rivals. There's 3 black characters in that whole entire game, and one of them is interchangeable. So it's almost like. So it's once again it's a thing. It's an industry. It's almost like an industry standard, and it won't change until you get creators who are sticking by their guns. And I'll tell you, when when I first started doing my book, all my characters were black. Just that's what I wanted. And then I was like, man, they're not gonna sell. Like I just like that's what I thought. I instantly put myself in that category. Yeah. And me and him were talking, and he was like, he sent me a YouTube video of all the main black characters in comics, and he's like, if you see them that color, and if this is how you see them, or however you depicted them when you created it, that's what you need to do. Who cares what the standard is? That's the point. If we don't start doing it, it won't change.
Right. And just a preference, it's not true. What the industry believes, this must be targeted towards black people, as it's a bad thing, because that's why they don't put 4. There's not 4 Avengers that are black. Like I said, Samuel L. Jackson don't count. He's not on the front lines fighting Thanos, or the whole crew. He's in the background. I'm talking about it's not true. Their belief in the industry is not true. Black Panther made $1 billion+, so clearly there could be more than 3 black people in a top tier movie with the budget. They just don't want to, or they are perpetuating that belief. It's not true. We'll we can get Storm on there. We can get Bishop and the X-Men. We can get the whole crew show up, and it'll be fine. And the fans will respond, white, black alike. It doesn't matter. Color of the fans don't matter. The fans know the characters, but we accept it and say, well, at least we got in there. And I'm okay with Samuel L. Jackson being black. But why did you make him black?
Why didn't you just put
what's the purpose?
I love Samuel L. Jackson in it, but why didn't you just put Darwin in it? Or why didn't you just put, you know what I mean? Like, why didn't you just put a character that's already, that no one is, I think it was Dave Chappelle when he first wrote his pilot for Fox. If I remember correct, I could be saying it wrong, but they wanted him to have a white character in the story in the first pilot, and he was like, that's not what I want to do. They didn't give him the show. And then we get half-baked. But it's a thing. It's like it happens a lot. There's very few shows that get away with it. I even think in if I read a story, I don't know how true it is, but shows like Living Single and things like that, like they wanted to put, they had a hard time getting those shows in because it was all black cast. So it's just, like I said, it's one of those things.
Yes. Last question.
With all that said, in the comic industry, especially in the comic industry, it seems like us as African Americans or black creators are rapidly growing the indie comic field because we're gravitating towards it. Because prior to this boom, we were never really included in a lot of comic books, especially in the heyday of comics. I just want to know, since you both are African American comic book artists, why do you think black creators are flocking more towards indie comics and wanting to be more indie comic creators?
You want to go, Arthur? I feel like, and I don't mean this in any negative light, but I feel like we don't get the same opportunities, so we're going to be indie. It's not like a lot of us don't get those same opportunities, and then you have people who, Greg and Marcus, I hear it all the time where people come to the table and are like, we started writing comics because of you guys. You guys are pioneers. There were other creators, but there weren't people like pushing or beating down the door, and this is what we were going to do. And I feel like until we can create our own productions and things like that, where we don't need anybody else, we won't be indie anymore. But I feel like people are coming to it the same reason that I started writing it. When I was growing up, my favorite comic book character is Jean Grey, and I met a comic book guy at the comic book shop. I was 10 years old, and he was like, "Boy, white guy, one of the nicest guys I ever met." And he handed me a Black Panther comic book. I had never seen Black Panther. I went home and read it, and he was like, "Just take it home and bring it back." So I took it home and I brought it back, and I was like, "Oh man, it was awesome." Then he gives me a Power Man, and the whole time he's introducing me to Black. But at 10 years old, I'm just reading good stuff, heroes that look like me. I didn't know what he was actually doing until I got older, and I was like, you know what? That man was trying to show me that there are people that, I think the more that we have creators like Marcus, Greg, me, Greg's, like all the creators that are doing this, it's going to make it easier. It's just a matter of, producing it and getting it done. So, but I think we're always going to be indie until there's a push for us to have our own production.
And to build on that though, because indie isn't bad.
Mhm.
The migration that you're talking about, the gold rush, if it even starts as a small gold rush of indie or independent creators saying, you know what, I'm not gonna wait for an approval anymore. This is the best time in human history to start a new concept, a new brand, a new product, a new IP, because you can take it straight to market. 20 years ago, it wasn't like that. There was no such thing as we're going to crowdfund, your project. There was no Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe. There was no YouTube. There was no social media. Now, more than ever, there is every tool available. If not for free, you can actually create and reach your targeted market. There's drop shipping. There's, brands and merchandising. It's so easy now. 3D printing is becoming almost standard to the point where if you don't have one on your desk, your home desk, you're missing out on practicing merchandising for your brand. I'm gonna get one. But it's like independent isn't a bad thing. The industry is going to independent creators for ideas because they're basically bankrupt in their own imaginations. So go buy up an idea. And we talked about Sinners, this gentleman yesterday. I haven't seen the movie yet, don't judge me. I was busy working on a comic. In the case of that movie though, here's the problem. 4+ years ago, those gentlemen, Chuck and Sanford Green and David Walker, they got the rights, optioned to make a movie from their comic book, which is, amazing. Okay. But Ryan Coogler was a part of that. I got the article and it says, hey, this is 2019. They got the rights. They're going to make Bitterroot a movie. Nothing happened. They gave the rights back. And unfortunately, comes Sinners. And I'm like, what happened? Wait a minute. And if you don't know Bitterroot is based in 1924. It follows a family almost like the Belmonts of Castlevania. Dope family of, monster hunters. They got cool weapons and guns and technology and I think a little magic. Fighting vampires and evil stuff, right? And that didn't happen. But now we got Sinners, which is based in 1930. Two brothers fighting or dealing with, vampires. I guess monsters, I don't know. But it's really similar. And I'm like, what happened, bro? Wait. Were you testing the market? It's doing really well. And that's the kind of thing to where, say, as independent creators, we are so quick to say, oh, money, take it. Hopefully it goes well. Optioning your IP to any studio is like saying, here, hope it goes well. They give you money, but they don't have to make it. It may not get made. They may put it on the shelf indefinitely. But you got your check. And if they do make it and it's terrible, guess what you got to say? Nothing. It's based on your IP. It doesn't have to be exactly. They can recast and make it one token black dude with 5 non-black characters. And you got paid, and it's just based on my Bitterroot or whatever book. So I'm with Tuskegee Heirs, me and Greg Burnham. That's his brother. I don't know if he mentioned that. He said Greg this whole time. So Greg Burnham is co-writing Tuskegee and co-creating Tuskegee Heirs with me. We've had many opportunities to do the same, but it's so prevalent. We've known independent creators throughout this last decade that have done that optioning trick and nothing good happens. It's really down to saying, what are you getting into this industry for? Do you want to make a comic for entertainment? If so, you don't care about it getting options, you don't really have anything tied to that IP that you want to live and breathe and die for, then sure, go that route, get the check, and keep writing. You can create another program, another IP, but if you really want it to stay consistently what you created it for, that's way harder. And you actually have to, unfortunately, we have to kind of educate each other. Any African American coming up in this industry needs to understand, what are the roadblocks? What are the workarounds? Is it okay to do it from the grassroots and work your way and create exactly what you don't have to get a movie first. You can go straight to YouTube. You can do social media. You can do small reels for your content and build an audience, get the numbers. There's a YouTube channel that just got a Netflix deal. It's a really small, IP, but they did the animation themselves on YouTube for years, millions of followers. Netflix said, hey, we'd love to have you on our program. That kind of thing. So you have to really educate these creators. Independent is not bad. They're really running the industry when you look at it. But it takes a little bit longer, it takes a lot more work. And you may have to fund a lot of it yourself, but the reward is there if you want to keep your IP as you want it. So, yeah.
And can you share your social media handles as we get ready to wrap?
Yes.
Mine, the Story of Solace. It's Instagram. Just I have a Facebook page for it also. And then the website and everything is the link in the back of the book, but it's Platform L7. Platform L7. That's where you can buy more copies of this and then other literary works that Greg has done and things like that. And then Tuskegee Heirs, of course, but Marcus, I'll let him do that part. That's theirs.
Right. Marcus Williams is my name, but you can find me online, Marcus the Visual, all one word. You can put a .com behind it or go to social media. Don't worry about my TikTok, it's coming. I got one, I just kind of neglected it. But I'm going live more, YouTube and all those things. But TuskegeeHeirs.com, that's HEIRS for heirs. That's where you can find our independent comic. We've, self-published that, and yeah, I'm online.